everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry, and we catch up with Twangling Jack Ford in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also email me here at the studio by dropping me a line on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s they'd like to share, local arts news, etc. Don't hesitate to get in touch. So this week we're going to be chatting to songwriter Paul Nattress. But before we do that, we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone for the latest instalment of Monsters of Rock by myself, Dane Cobain.
This feels like bad business, Steve said. Like we're signing our souls away. Speak for yourself, Vlad replied. I don't have a soul. My soul is with the devil. You're not missing much, Groen said. He turned to look at the orcs. How's that? Are we done here? The orc chief gathered up the paperwork and smirked at the band as he worked his way around them. The boss man will be in touch, the orc said. It took a couple of weeks for the contracts to be duplicated and distributed to each of the band members, but they didn't have much time to think about it. It was coming up to festival season, and while the band didn't have any guaranteed dates under their collective belt, they did have a bunch of tryouts, including a couple of weekday gigs. They spent any spare seconds writing melodies and jotting down scraps of lyrics. When the contracts were delivered, they came with a summons. The Nameless One had secured some studio time for them to work on their debut album, and this time there was no need for blindfolds and secrecy. They were recording in a little studio at a pig farm in rural Oxfordshire, and they'd arrived expecting some tin pot operation with the evil equivalent of Crazy Dave. Nothing could have been further from the truth. The studio was cutting edge, with so many shiny machines that Groen didn't know where to look. And far from being evil, the wizened old human in charge of production seemed nice enough, if a little forgetful. Nidge, the producer, had a good ear for music. He'd also seen the Monsters before at one of the gigs they'd played in the city, and he'd remembered their set. He got them to play each tune a few times before they started recording, and that helped them to recapture the vibe of their live shows, but with the easy refinement that comes from recording in a studio. And besides, they had their EP to build on. For the songs that they'd already recorded, Nidge had been happy to give them a tweak in a remix, although they'd laid down some new guitar tracks to distinguish the EP from the album and to give collectors something to geek out on. That gave them Broken Swords, In the Hole, Dark Nightmares, Elixir and The Blacksmith. The new tracks were mostly Gonadson originals, although there were a few of Yaver's compositions as well, and the rest of the band had helped to flesh them out and to turn them from rough sketches into stunning masterpieces. The new tracks were called Nemesis, Man Down, The Ballad of the Big Battle Axe, Big Daddy, The Chain Gang, The Flight of the Big Smoke. In the album's footnotes, the song was dedicated to the great dragon Cerise. Nailed, Murder One, and Going Home to Fairy. As a gesture of goodwill, the band invited Crazy Dave to come in on the last day of recording, when they were finalising the overdubs and perfecting the mixes. Groen had sent off for a keg of dwarven mead from the mountains, and they planned to hold a listening party to celebrate the end of work. The whole production crew was invited, as was the album's cover artist and the marketing manager the band had been assigned. There were rumours that the Nameless One himself would swing by as he went about his nefarious business. They hoped that he wouldn't. They were already a little drunk by the time that the sessions were over and the final mix was ready. Nidge hooked his deck up to the big speakers in the control room and they all crowded round to listen. They listened in silence, even with the baker's dozen of them crowded into a tiny space and enough booze to intoxicate a squadron of dwarf deathbringers. When they needed to communicate, they communicated by gestures. Mostly, though, they just listened. Well, shit, Crazy Dave said, after the last chord had been played and the remastered version of The Blacksmith, which rounded off the album, had faded into silence. I think you lot are onto something. Did you take my advice and get a manager yet? Groen shook his head sheepishly. It's still on the list, he said. You should get a move on, Crazy Dave replied. You guys are going to sell a fair few copies of this thing. You'll have to go out on tour. I'll handle it, Groen said. What about the Nameless One? Yaver asked. Shouldn't this be arranged by the label? Do you want to ask the Orcs for a meeting? Groen replied. We're pushing our luck as it is. Good point, Yaver said. They sank into a morose silence, but then one of the apprentice engineers knocked a drink over and the spell was broken. Nidge exploded like a rocket, ushering them all out of the control room so he could clean up the mess before any damage was done. and so they hit the pubs instead to celebrate. For Groen to organise the tour, he needed to know the album's release date, but the Dark Lord, in his infinite wisdom, kept pushing it back. Then the end of August rolled around and the Russian army withdrew from Latvia, which had little to do with the band but everything to do with Yeva, who insisted she had to go back to her homeland to take part in the celebrations. Groen was hesitant at first, but he eventually agreed when she promised to take the keyboard with her and to work on some new music for the second album. Krust went with her, which left the rest of the band with no vehicle and no bassist or keyboard player. They still performed from time to time, but they stuck to stripped-down acoustic sets with Vlad smacking 7 shades of of a cajon. Mostly, they kept themselves to themselves. Groen was busy with a passion project. Inspired by Yeva's camper van, he'd bought one of his own. His was a larger model, almost like an RV, and he spent the rest of the year stripping it bare and then refitting it into a machine that could support the whole band and their instruments, Krust included. He asked some pupils from a nearby art school to give the van a makeover, and after a couple of weeks it was covered with psychedelic graffiti that glowed in the dark and made the RV look like a cross between the Mystery Machine and John Lennon's Rolls Royce. It looked, in short, like a minibus that was worthy of a band on tour. Now all Groen needed to do was to convince Yeva to convert the damn thing so that it ran on Magic. One of the many good things about Magic is that it's carbon neutral. The tour had been postponed until the following year, when Yeva would be back from Latvia and ready to join them. The album would drop at the end of November at an industry showcase, and she planned to fly back for the gig before returning to Latvia. Krust was coming back with her too, to make sure that the band was at its best. They'd even arranged for the Skeletons from the Phoenix to make another appearance, although the band's set had changed and so they needed to come up with a new routine. And throughout the British underground, word was starting to spread. There was a hot new band on the scene, and they were called the Real Monsters.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. That was the latest instalment of Monsters of Rock, which is a novel of mine that is currently going through editing. And this is Kimberly Gray with Papers.
Started with an unwritten page. Now we're halfway through our book. Supposed to finish it together. You stole that from me, it would be never. Faded words, faded feelings, faded memories and faded beginnings. It's a blank space. It's a blank page. We look good on paper. Saw me, was hidden there between the lines. You're such a stranger. I drew up inside my mind. Couldn't see the dangers. I couldn't even read the sign. I keep riding, hoping things will change. I'm sleeping with a ghost, I feel the chains. We have no trust, what do we have to gain? This is no game. Faded words, faded feelings, faded memories and faded beginnings. It's a blank space. It's a blank page. We look good on paper. A fantasy, a grand design. Every lie you saw me was hidden there between the lines. You were such a stranger. I drew up inside my mind. Couldn't see the dangers. I couldn't even read the sign. The sign. Faded words, faded feelings, faded memories and faded beginnings. It's a blank space. It's a blank page. I've carried so much love in my heart. Now it's faded, I can see where it started. We have to say goodbye. Please don't say try. We look good on paper. Fantasy, a grand design. Every lie you saw me was hidden there between Heart stops, skips a beat, don't you see just what you're doing to me? I think it's obscene, I can't breathe when you look at me like a domino. You hit me down with your love, your heartbeat knocked me right off my feet. Did it hurt how you fell from above? 'Cause you're my angel of love. Boy, will you be mine? Oh my gosh, boy, you're so fine. Can't get you off my mind. So give me a taste, boy. Give me some. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Bubble, bubble, bubble gum, bubble gum. Bubble, bubble. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Bubble, bubble, bubble gum, bubble gum. Give me some, give me some. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Like a summer rush, you take me away with one single touch. You turn me to mush, I feel divine. Tell me you feel the tingles up and down your spine like a domino. You hit me down with your love, your heartbeat knocked me right off my feet. Did it hurt how you fell from above? 'Cause you're my angel of love. Boy, will you be mine? Oh my gosh, boy, you're so fine. Can't get you off my mind. So give me a taste, boy. Give me some. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Bubble, bubble, bubble gum, bubble gum. Bubble, bubble. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Bubble, bubble, bubble gum, bubble gum. Give me some, give me some. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Hey, hey, hey. Bubble gum, bubble gum. Hey, 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 hey. Bubble gum, bubble gum. Boy, will you be mine? Oh my gosh, boy, you're so fine. Can't get you off my mind. So give me a taste, boy. Give me some. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Bubble, bubble, bubble gum, bubble gum. Bubble, bubble. I wanna taste your bubble gum. Bubble, bubble, bubble gum, bubble gum. Give me some, give me some. I wanna taste your bubble gum.
That was Bubblegum by Paul Nattress, and before that we had Papers by Kimberly Gray. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to be joined now by the man himself, Paul Nattress. I always start with my traditional opening question. You might have an answer, you might not, but it's what was the last book that you read, and what did you think of it?
I'm dyslexic, so I don't tend to read books. I tend to go for graphic novels.
Yeah.
So Legend of Dross as a graphic novel was a good read because it's easier to read than actual books for me as I'm dyslexic.
Awesome. Well, and I suppose a similar question for yourself as a musician. We could ask, what was the last album that you listened to, and what did you think of it?
Streaming has kind of like taken over, so people don't tend to buy albums as much as they used to. What I've been doing is, because I sometimes DJ as well, I buy albums of artists who I like 3 or 4 songs of. I like a wide variety of music, from kind of George Gershwin to modern day pop.
Well, and we'll chat about DJing in a bit, and obviously I want to chat to you about music in general. So I wondered, like, what instruments do you play, or do you do vocals? What you play trumpet? Okay, and how did you get your start with it?
Well, when I was 10, the music teacher at the school I was going said, "What instrument would you like to learn?" And I said, "What's the easiest?" And he said, "How about we start you off on the cornet, which is a smaller version of a trumpet." So at 10, so I started playing cornets. It takes a little while to build up the lip muscles, so you buzz on. It takes a while. And did various school bands, went to Bucks, South Bucks Jazz Orchestra.
Okay.
Was done at the Wickham Music Centre. They used to have, and there's Simon Davey was the conductor. and organiser of the band. And his father, John David, was also quite big at the Music Centre in Wickham. And I did music GCSE, did BTEC National Music Production and Performance, did a BSc Music Technology. So I learned piano at college. So and I've always loved singing.
Awesome. And so, you mentioned to me that you've been writing songs. I wondered, how did you first start writing songs, and can you remember the first one that you wrote?
Okay, yeah. For GCSE music, had to do compositions as part of it, and I've always mucked about on the piano. I've just pressed random notes. I had a little keyboard as a kid, but never really not learned how to play it properly. And they had some software called MIDI soft recording sessions that came with the Gravis ultrasound sound card that the school got for the music PC, where you just place the notes on the screen and it plays it back, so MIDI. And so that's how I started, and I seemed to have a knack for it where others struggled. And yeah, and then I started learnt about the bass clef and how to place notes on the bass clef, and kept on learning. So I got a C in GCSE music. They said B for my composition, but C for the listening side. So it's kind of developed from there. At the Abbey School, where I worked in Reading for 13.5 years, the head receptionist was called Anne Marie, and her husband is a guy called John Saunderson. And he is quite big in the music industry. He runs networking events in Talyard, but now the most recent one in the Electric Ballroom in Camden.
Okay.
So he invites anybody come down that wants to. So if you're interested in music, and and all producers, did you watch School's holiday video? You probably spot him on there in his speedos. He appears in that video. But yeah, he introduced me to a company called Charthouse Music, and they've split up into two companies now. So Sappho Music, which is in North London, and Charthouse Music have got their studios in Portsmouth, Waterlooville, and I still visit them both. And they do songwriting workshops. There's one coming up this Sunday in Sappho, which is Crouch End, North London. So I'll be doing that. So they songwriters, it's about £40, and you spend the day there, and you get an idea, a suggestion for a basis for a song. You work in groups of 3, and you write a song together. At the end of the day, you perform the songs that you wrote. It's all good fun, and been writing stuff down with the producers down in Portsmouth as well. So
that's cool. And so how do you find it compares writing songs just by yourself versus writing with others? Is it easier, is it harder, or is it just a different kind of challenge?
It's kind of a bit easier because you can play off each other. So you throw ideas into a pot, and not all your ideas are going to be accepted, but you got a theme, you got to start writing a story. So you're writing the story from start to finish, and ideas for a chorus, pre-chorus, or ideas for verses, and words, write a line, and somebody will write a line responding to that line. And yeah, it's the collaborative process is good fun, and it benefits everyone because throwing lots of ideas and sometimes end up with a better song, but you have less control over it. So if you wanted to write something about something very specific, it's obviously easier to write it by yourself. But
yeah, if you're willing to sort of collaborate and see where it goes, yeah. Well, and I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, and this kind of goes back, I suppose, to your, your origins with, with trumpet and moving on to piano. I mean, how do you approach songwriting? Do you kind of think about the lyrics first? Do you think about the melody? Do you think about the chords? Do you come up with like a theme that you want to focus on? What does that look like for you when you first sit down to write something?
Um, Sometimes some you off, or something that's happened in your life
Mm,
that's annoyed you, or upset you, or caused some strong emotion in you, and you want to get down all your ideas about what you like to do to this person, or
mm,
um, how they made you feel, telling a story about how they made you feel. So you're just writing down your verses, and then you start rhyming what you put into rhymes, um, and then so then from you might have loads of lyrics, but you don't choose all of them. You can't start
mm,
to cluster to pick out the best lines um, and make a verse, and so that make a good chorus. That will make and just can't start constructing a song like that. Or sometimes you might start with a drum beat and then work on some chords to go with the drum beat, and then you might do it that way. And then you might think, oh, this sounds happy, or
mm.
sad, and then you start thinking words that might suit that those chords. So there's a number of ways you can do it, and yeah, as I said, if you're collaborative, they normally give you an idea for a song or a picture to inspire you, and then you just try and find a story within the picture and go from there.
Yep, makes sense. And you mentioned again a lot of how a song can be inspired by emotion, things like that. I wondered if there are any sort of common themes in your songs, whether it is a common emotion, common lyrical themes, common metaphors, um, even like common genres or anything like that. Is there anything that sort of ties your songs together?
We get it's on Chart House Music. She's a member of a puppet singing company called 23rd Precinct,
Okay.
and they send briefs from recording companies saying we want a song for this artist. They give you references of how they want it to sound like, and what the theme is got to be like, and they give you various. It has to be this, has to be that, and then you try and write a song to the brief, and trying to think of a story and write a song to the brief. So I've written K-pop, I've written country, um, trying to fulfill these briefs. I haven't had anything chosen. Another thing I've done is written some lyrics and music and put on a website called Hit Music,
Okay, yeah.
.co.uk. So I sold one track. Some DJ picked up one of my tracks that I co-wrote with Alex Robson, who's the owner of Chart House Studios, and we got €500 for it.
All right,
But
yeah,
obviously,
very nice.
the website takes a cut, and and obviously we split 50-50 between what we get after the website's taking the cut. So I got about £100 from that. So
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Yeah, no, very nice. And I suppose you mentioned you've got quite a diverse set of genres that you listen to. I suppose that
Yeah.
serves you quite well, especially in that line of work of when you're kind of responding to those briefs, because you listen to quite a wide variety of music, you're probably better placed to write, you're better placed to write a piece of K-pop than somebody who only listens to metal music or somebody who only listens to rap or whatever it might be.
Yeah, but when you get a brief, they give you a load of samples of, oh, we want it to sound like Harry Styles, or they might send
Mhm.
you, they want it to sound like who they give you some samples tracks they want it to sound like. And so yeah, you when you listen to it, you're analyzing, well, what makes this good, and try and add, or what makes it this particular type of style.
Mm.
Um, like in K-pop, it's quite production heavy, so the vocals, production, the different harmonies, um, the kind of, almost comic laughters.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with songwriter Paul Nattress, and this is Paul Nattress with Here With Me.
Tears fall from the sky every time you go, and I feel the sun shining when you stay. It don't seem so bad, and you're holding my hand. But when you leave for the day, it's like the clouds come over me, the trees start to lose their leaves, and there's so many signs that say we should be. Oh, why do I feel so all alone? And our house don't feel like a home, even though I know you'll always come back to me. I guess I'm like a dog with a bone, I'll never leave you alone. You're my chocolate that I need, I'm the chocoholic with the greed. Or maybe I'm selfish, I think it's true. Maybe it's me, but I think it's you. So I want you here with me, like the nectar to the bee. I need every little drop of your honey. I die without you now, and you are the key to unlocking me. And only with you I'll be free. 'Cause boy, when you leave, it's like the clouds come over me, the trees start to lose their leaves, and there's so many signs that say we should be. Oh, why do I feel so all alone? And our house don't feel like a home, even though I know you'll always come back to me. I guess I'm like a dog with a bone, I'll never leave you alone. You're my chocolate that I need, I'm the chocoholic with the greed. Or maybe I'm selfish, I think it's true. Maybe it's me, but I think it's you. All I know is when you go, there's no air to breathe. I guess the world wants you here with me. Yeah, I guess the world wants you here with me. Like a dog with a bone, I'll never leave you alone. You're my chocolate that I need, I'm the chocoholic with the greed. Or maybe I'm selfish, I think it's true. Maybe it's me, but I think it's you. All I know is when you go, there's no air to breathe. I guess the world wants you here with me. Yeah, I guess the world wants you here with me. I guess the world wants you here with me.
That was Here With Me by Paul Nattress. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to be rejoined in conversation now by this week's guest, Paul Nattress.
And I wanted to ask, because you mentioned again of writing songs for other artists, if you could pick any well-known artist to perform your songs, who would you pick and why?
Ooh. Ooh.
There's a lot of choice out there. You could also think like if you could be commissioned to write for any artist, I suppose, rather than any artist to do the songs you've already written.
Well, I suppose I like to be, one way of putting it would be, I would love to be on a kind of writing camp with Anne-Marie when she does with her writing team. Mm-hmm. The amazing opportunity. There's a songwriting group called, do you know Elisa Satic? Do you remember Elisa Satic?
Oh yes, yeah.
Well, Sally Paul was one of the sisters, and she's teamed up with a guy called Paul Stratham, who's had quite a few hits. Dido's White Flag. He did that album with Dido.
Yeah.
So they're mentors, and they also hold workshops. So they do one near Glastonbury for a week, or a resort week in Spain, and they do ones in London at the Sapphire Studios as well. So working with people who've had a lot of success is probably ideal. But yeah, in a songwriting camp like that with Anne-Marie would be a great thing.
Yeah. Cool. And I was going to ask you, based on that, you've talked a lot about those sort of songwriting groups and sort of how those work as well. Is that ever something that you would want to do yourself? Would you ever want to lead sort of songwriting workshops yourself one day, or are you happy at the moment just sort of attending them, or you're gonna see where life takes you, I suppose?
I've never really thought about running a session. I'm happy to mentor people, but I'm not sure people would want to flock to a session that I was running, but because I'm not that well known. The people, there's Tileyard Education. They also run. They're based in Tileyard and near King's Cross. Run writing camps as well, and you send them examples of your songwriting, and then they say, yeah, you're good enough to come. They're quite expensive, so it's about saving up the money and doing them.
Yeah. Well, and in terms of sort of success, what would success look like to you? What are your goals as a songwriter?
To make money from it. I mean, as a songwriter, you're doing it for the fun, and you're investing a lot of money into it, because studio time, you probably spend £320 for the day writing one song or two songs, and as you heard, I just got about £100 back. So I'm not making money, if you know what I mean.
You're just offsetting costs. Yeah.
But so to make it so it's profitable, and so I'm not doing a day job as well to support that would be success.
Yeah. It's again, I talk to a lot of creative people on this show, and that tends to be a common goal, really. It's one of those where I think most people in bands, for example, it would be great if they were as big as the Beatles, but if they could, to be honest, they'll just if we could just make a living doing what we love, we'd be happy, And I wanted to ask you, you mentioned to me before this call, when we were sort of setting things up, that you're creative in some other ways as well. I wondered, sort of what other areas of creativity are you interested in, either as, something that you like doing, or something that you just like consuming?
I'm a video editor, so I edit videos. I've made videos for when I was at the Abbey School for colleagues leaving, so like a goodbye videos. I did a video for a guy's retirement party. Did my friend's 5-year-old's birthday party video. I did GCSE art as well, so a bit of drawing and what other areas? Internet design, done website design.
I suppose a lot of this as well is just it ties in well with what you're doing with the songwriting. So if you do need, I don't know, a website for your music, or you do need a music video or something like that, they can support that.
When I did my dissertation, when I was at Leeds Metropolitan University, I did it on, because DVDs were very new back then. So that's back in 2001. And so I researched what made a DVD, what stuff they sort of put up in the background, and I made my own promotional DVD for the group of musicians who had written some songs together at uni. So I made interviews for the video, so of the artists and the people who like the session musicians that we used, and that was good fun. And also did a website for but website design has come a long way since 2001. You know, cascading style sheets and makes it a lot easier to change things.
Yeah.
But,
Cool. Awesome. So just a couple of other questions. I wondered, you mentioned when you do, for example, the songwriting workshops at the end, you'll perform the song at the end. But I wondered,
Yes.
do you perform your songs at all, or I mean, I guess do you record them so that they're at least, so maybe even if you don't do live performances, do you perform them on record?
Yes, you sometimes I've sung on some of the stuff. I've played trumpet on some of the stuff. It as a songwriter, you can't put your music out there for people to hear because artists don't want other people to have heard the music before they do their version of it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you can't share like if I was an artist myself and just trying to promote myself. I put you go on social media, put TikTok videos, you do Instagram reels, and just loads of social media videos to get your stuff out there, YouTube or whatever the current trend is, and try and get your music out there and put it on Spotify. There's like you can put it on. There's a thing called DistroKid that helps you put it on all the different platforms. So it's quite a different. And then if people hear it, they like it, then you can grow a following, and then you do live gigs around. You do open the mic nights and then live gigs. Yeah. That's a kind of different way. But as a songwriter, you can't put your music out there.
Yeah, that must be quite difficult to. It's almost you need people to listen to the music. You need the performers to listen to the music, but you can't do that by putting it out there. It has to be very targeted in who you allow to listen to it, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
You might say, all right, this one I'm going to sacrifice. I'm just going to put it out there so people can hear what I can do. But obviously, you're not likely to get someone to pick that one up.
Yeah. So it's tough, yeah. And also then, I suppose then, even if you decide to do that, it's a tough call because do you put your best thing out there knowing that that's what's going to best represent you in the public, but also it's your best piece that you're most likely to be able to sell. So you've got a tough decision there. Or do you do the opposite? You put something online that you don't think you're going to be able to sell, but is that because it's not very good, in which case it doesn't reflect you to the best of your ability? So it's tough, isn't it?
Well, the way that I've done it is, if it's something a bit personal, like I did a song about my dog who died, and how you miss your dog when they die. That I don't think anybody's going to ever pick that up. So, but it does show off my songwriting ability. Yeah. So that one can be played. The first song I wrote with Charthouse Music, he said, "Well, what do you want to do with it?" I said, "I don't know. What counts as it?" John Saunderson listened to it and he said, "Well, he thinks it'd be good for Sync." So Sync is films and adverts. He thinks that's where the money is. So he said he'll put it to a friend of his, but never heard anything. But he said he thought it would be a hit. He said when I played it to him. But it might have been just being nice, but you never know.
I suppose it's hard to tell with these things as well. Like you said with that other piece, you put it online. You might put it online, forget about it, and then you never know. In 5 years, you might get a big check because someone's picked it up for a big advertising campaign or something. You just don't know it until you do it.
Yeah, true. You could put your music up on royalty-free, because people don't want to pay royalties for music and get name credited out there, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's one way of building a name for yourself, and then people might come to you to write more specific stuff, and then that's where you get your money. So that's an option. But Hit Music UK, at least I've made money from it, and the DJ who bought it said, "Well, I'm not planning to do anything with it yet, or something I'm planning to do in a couple of years' time." So he's bought an exclusive license for it, so I can't do anything else with it. But he's not doing anything with it yet. So
cool. Awesome.
But maybe it'll be in a dance hit one. Eventually, when it's around to it, maybe.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so just to finish on, what have you got planned next? And I usually ask where people can follow you to find out more, but I suppose in your case, can people get in touch with you if they're looking for a songwriter?
Yeah, definitely. People can contact me via Instagram because you can find me that quite easily. So at Nattress Paul, NATTRESS Paul PAUL. Send me a message than that, and I'll respond and give you a few ideas of what we can be doing. As for what's next, well, I'll carry on songwriting, maybe to briefs, or maybe sell some more stuff on Hit Vocals UK and see where it leads. So.
Big thank you to Paul Nattress for joining me. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Paul Nattress with Let It Be.
I got my eyes wide open, you got yours closed tight shut. I told you all I had to say, but you keep on believing what you think I've done. I know it's hard to see the truth, but you're listening to every lie, isn't there wrong? But I got my eyes wide open, and now you're holding on to something I said I never do. I understand you're hurting, but did you ever stop to breathe? Clear your mind, 'cause right now you're painting red, and that's all you can see. Always there in your eyes, you believe in the lies over me. But maybe it's time to let it be. I think it's time to realize it's too late for me and you. 'Cause I did everything I could, but you were too consumed. You let the hate take all the love that ever was between us. No, I think it's time to realize it's too late for me and you. 'Cause you're holding on to something I said I never What's there in your eyes? You believe in the lies over me. Well, maybe it's time to let it be.
Rustling through birch tree leaves, floating on a faltering breeze, memories of memories. We made a pact to keep all of ourselves intact. Why did you turn away from the setting sun? Summer had just begun. You were the only one. We made a pact to keep all of ourselves intact. Rustling through birch tree leaves, floating on a faltering breeze, memories of memories. We made a pact. We made a pact. We made a pact.
That was Birch Tree by Nick Byrne, and before that we had Let It Be by Paul Nattress. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head over to the Oak Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for a weekly album review.
Pixies, Bossa Nova. I was watching MTV and a video came on that was so awful it gained my attention. It was just 4 people coming down a hillside. But the song sounded to me like a song I'd always wanted to hear. A song that I'd been waiting for since the 70s. A song that took all the indie stuff that had become so tiresome and gave it a strangeness, an off-kilter quality that I could not put my finger on, and that mystery made it even more compelling. It starts with a distorted guitar fanfare and then seems to fall into a rock beat almost by accident. It does not do the obvious, but everything it does do seems to be perfect. Up until then, I had not really understood why there were so many people who counted Pixies as their all-time favourite band. They had not long split up, and I found the song I was looking for on their posthumous compilation, Death to the Pixies. But I would not recommend that album, because you should buy the 4 original Pixies albums. Bossa Nova starts with an instrumental that sounds like a spaghetti western theme played by a surf band. Then we get something painfully screechy and very shouty, like a burst of horror flick torture. Then comes the song I fell in love with, Valoria, and it still makes my hair stand on end. Generally, the Pixies have weird verses followed by catchy sing-along choruses. They have the powerful rhythm guitars of the Ramones, but with more melodic post-punk bass, and very solid, almost machine-like drums. The whole thing is made more compelling by the parts that make it less commercial and more arty and challenging. They have strange lyrics with a manic delivery, and a noisy lead guitar that scrapes away any shine with a Sonic Youth type abrasiveness. The catchy choruses will stick in your head, songs like Dig for Fire and Is He Weird? But it is all the unexpected strangeness of the verse that will make you keep coming back. Bossa Nova, Pixies.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to Paul Nattress for being this week's guest. Thank you to everyone whose music I've shared. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. We are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And you can email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune until next week. This is Big Sky Orchestra with Manifestation. I'll catch you next time.
When you want it, well, you will get what you need anytime. If you're tired of your current situation, honey, you best hurry up and change your mind. Well, I'm gonna take you where the sun shines every day. So honey, you best get used to it. Just another hypocrite. Manifestation, yeah, yeah, yeah. Manifestation. You can't put another one